They my reactors, so I'll be reading chapter 56 and 57. There's going to come a time when you'll have to choose a side. Be sure to choose right. Slave. The weather was nicer than it has been all winter. As the Baker boys put traffic on a momentary pause, okay. As the Baker boys put traffic on a momentary pause, every female in view, and a few men too, couldn't believe their eyes. In the dead of winter, 4 men jogged down the street shirtless and in jeans. Although it was cold outside, sweat poured off their bodies as they performed their daily routine. This workout was particularly important because Slade needed to get fur off his mind. She invaded his thoughts and forced him to forget about what was important, bring his family back together. Major seemed to be slowing down. Slade turned around and yelled, "Major, push it. Go faster, go harder, and longer." When he seemed to be disconnected, Slade slowed down his pace so he could jog by his side. "I miss him too, Major. We all do. That's why we gotta stay strong and keep shit together." Major avoided eye contact. "Do it for Knox." He placed his hand on his shoulder and Major looked at him. "Now push." With the mention of their brother's name, all 4 brothers ran faster. They already jogged 4 miles and only one more to go. "Move," Slade yelled as he pointed forward. "We almost there." They were so motivated that in the last few minutes they were able to beat their record. When they finally made it back to Marky's apartment, they sat wherever they could catch their breath. Marky was in the living room watching TV but cut it off when Slade walked inside and into the kitchen. "What, man?" Slade threw each of his brother a water bottle from the fridge before twisting off the cap on his own. "Did my brother call or something?" The brothers walked in the kitchen and waited for Marky to respond. "No, not yet." "So what the fuck is up?" Major asked, breathing heavily. "Why you looking all crazy and shit?" "Granny wants to meet with y'all tonight. He has a job. He said he can't wait." Slade wasn't feeling the shit one bit. After the situation at her apartment, he hated him even more. But to prevent Granny from killing his cousin, he reluctantly agreed. "What he want us to do?" "He say he's meeting with someone he don't trust. It's the first of the month, so he got his other men out on the streets making collections. He say he needs y'all, and he's not taking no for an answer." "How does motherfucker know we won't put the gun to his head and pull the trigger ourselves?" Killer laughed. "Yeah, he better not give me no gun," Audio added, rubbing his hands together and grinning slightly, "because I'm liable to do that shit too." "You not going," Slade said. "I need you here safe. I ain't got time to be worrying about where you are." Audio looked confused. "But I want to help my brothers out." He looked at all of them. "You can't keep treating me like I'm some bitch. I'm tired of this shit." "Audio, shut the fuck up," Slade barked, still breathing heavily from his workout. "I said you staying here, and that's the end of it." "Actually, Randy want all 4 of y'all," Marky said. He said it pacifically. He paused. "Sorry, Slade, but it's all or nothing." Audio smiled until Slade gave him a stir and knocked the grin off his face, like a jab to his jaw. "Where does this nigga live? Huh?" "I ain't stutter, motherfucker," Slade yelled. "I said, where does he live? If you in contact with him like you are, I know you up on where he rests his head." "In Maryland." "You know where exactly?" Major asked. Marky seems uncomfortable. "Yeah, I know, but why?" "What difference does it make, nigga?" Killer ran. "You act like we not family. If we ask you where you stay and you know, then you best be telling us." "I know y'all family, but I'm just asking because..." "Because what?" Slade interrupted. "I'm only asking because you seem upset. They look like they were 5 seconds from depotting his ass on the floor." "Granny ain't the kind of nigga you can stuck to like that. I know y'all used to that kind of shit in Mississippi, but here things run differently. There's going to come a time when you have to choose a side," Slade said. "Be sure to choose right." The parking lot was dark and desolated. as Randy waited for a man he haven't seen in 5 months. The silver, the silver six-passenger Ford van Randy drove in was so quiet on the inside that you could hear butt cheeks clap together. I think that's him right there, Randy said from the passenger seat. Major was driving and the other ones were in the back. When we get out, don't say shit to him. Thinking about your job, country. Thinking ain't your job, country niggas. He turned around to look at all of them, looking pretty and protecting me is. He was reckless with his mouth and Slade was getting tired of it. Who is he? Slade asked the nigga you meeting. Randy looked back at him as if he had no business questioning him. My pops. Slade looked at his brother and said, all this for your father? Randy smirked. If you knew him, you wouldn't say that shit. Willie Gregory, Randy's father, was very cunning and conniving. In fact, Randy learned every hateful and deceitful characteristics he possessed from him. Although it was true that they shared the same bloodline, the two couldn't stand each other. There was so much hate between them that they were in each other's company. People assumed they were enemies instead of father and son. Randy always wanted love from his father, and when he was younger, he'd do anything in his power to get it, from wearing his crocodile shoes to taking his father's side when his mother was angry with him. He went over and beyond to prove he wanted his acceptance. After all this time, despite many tries, nothing seems to work. Randy didn't realize that there was nothing he could do to win him over until later. Willie hated everything about him, including the dead woman whose pussy he slid out of. Although the love wasn't there, Randy did a great job of fashioning himself in his likeness, so much so that Willie could never trust him. Willie was sure that the moment Randy had a chance, he would stab him in the back, and he was correct. Willie had worked for years to build his D.C.-based drug operation from the ground up. When he was arrested for a drug-related offense, he reluctantly turned over power to Randy. 5 years later, when he was released from prison, he fully expected to regain his position in the business. But Randy thought otherwise. Randy traded the need for affection for the desire of power by giving Willie a small piece of real estate before overthrowing him completely. He remembered when Willie told him he could never be nothing but an errand boy. So this meeting was just to confirm that he was in power and would never give it up. When the black Lincoln Town car pulled up, Randy looked at the Baker boys. He wasn't sure if he could trust them if something popped off, but for now he didn't have a choice. But since they were muscular and tall, he felt he could use them for intimidation purposes. If nothing else, remember what I said, Randy advised, pointing at them. Don't say shit unless I ask you to open your mouth. The only thing you need to be saying is yes, and that's when I address you. I should kill this motherfucker right now, Killer thought, placing his hands on his chest, on his heat. Slade placed his large hand over his and said, not right now. With the situation under control, the Baker boys filled out of the van, and Audio walked around to the passenger side to open Randy's door. When Randy stepped out, he adjusted his black leather coat and dark shades. Whether it's be night or day, Randy never stepped anywhere without them. Some said it was to conceal the hate in his eyes. A few seconds later, one of Willie's men opened up his car door. Willie floated out of his seat as smoothly as a 70 pimp and approached his only child. Green men covered Willie, and at first Slade thought he was losing his mind. He was so sure that he blinked several times just to be sure his eyes weren't playing tricks on him. When he looked at his brother and he saw their eyes were wide open too, he knew what he saw was confirmed. Standing behind Willie holding a shotgun was their brother Knox. They were about to rush to him when he shook his head and placed a finger over his lips. Using his eyes, he begged them not to approach, and it took everything in Slade power to honor his request. Chapter 57. It's kind of long, y'all. If you think I had anything to do with that shit, call the police Fur pressed her warm body against Slade and ran her foot lovely down the side of his legs. She couldn't bear to be near him without feeling him in some kind of way. Every part of her body craved him like water to a dry garden. Although the drama in her apartment and her late night missions to soothe the urge of violence prevented them from making love, the bond they were building would last a lifetime. She wasn't interested in having sex right now anyway, not wanting to turn him off because of her inexperience in the bedroom. Pulling the covers over their bodies, she rolled on top of him and looked into his eyes. After everything Randy attempted to do to thought her actions to go on with the rest of her life, she was still able to get through the stage. The night Randy came over and threatened her life, she spent an hour outside the monkey door on her knees, trying to get him to let her in. It took some time, but eventually her plan worked. Slade, when you gonna let me in on a little bit of your life? I told you about me, she embellished, but I don't know a whole lot about you. Yes, you do. You know what I like to eat, drink, and what ticks me off and makes me want to kill. I'm serious, I don't know where you're from and things like that. Fur, I got a lot of things going on right now. I'll start letting you in my life when I clear some things up with my family. And you start like letting me in yours. He pulled her close and kissed her lips. So you going tit for tat now? I don't even know what the fuck that means, he lied. Seriously, Slade, she rolled over him, eased out of her bed, and walked over the room wearing a pearl-colored short nightie. Slade penis rose immediately. I can tell something is bothering you. What you talking about? Whenever you with me, you seem to be somewhere else mentally. It makes me feel like you're going to leave me at any time, and I've been abandoned a lot as a kid. I don't want to be alone anymore. She walked to the table, which held snacks in her coffee machine. Then she opened the fridge and grabbed a bottle of water and poured it into the pot. Fur made every movement seductive to keep his attention. What you doing with all this food in your room and the fridge? I can't keep my food out there. They eat it all. She smiled before opening a packet of coffee and slowly poured it into the pot. The real reason her room looked like a kitchen was because she was afraid of what Lisa might do to get her back. It was obvious that she was playing dirty by telling Randy her business, so she couldn't be trusted. Me and the rest just went for it. I wish this bitch would. Method. It didn't matter that most of her things were in storage. Lisa would find all kinds of reasons to enter the premises, and when she refused, she threatened to call the police. Fur had plans to deal with her on a daily note the moment she could make her move, but now was not the time. When she tripped over one of Rhonda's baby shower baskets, she put both of them by the window. You want something to drink? He raised his hand like he was waiting for a football and yelled, yeah. She threw it, and when he caught it, she said, don't try to skip the subject, Slade. What is going on with you? Slade looked into her eyes and felt he could reveal more to her than he could do any other person unrelated to him. Twisting the cap off the water bottle, he took a sip, swallowed, and said, I've been looking for my brother for months. We finally found him the other night, but for whatever reason, he couldn't talk to us. Why not? The smell of fresh coffee filled the room. Is he mad at you or something? Nah, it's deeper than that. For real, I'm not sure what's going on with him. When I saw him, he acted like he couldn't speak to me. He placed the bottle on the dresser next to the bed. Now I gotta talk to my mother, and I know she's gonna be fucked up with me. The only reason I'm in D.C. is to find him. I don't know what I'm going to say to her. I never loved a woman stronger than I love my mother, and I hate seeing her hurt. Fur didn't like knowing that another person was out there holding an extra key to his heart. Just tell her the truth, she shrugged. That's what my grandma would always say anyway. She opened up a pack of white coffee cups and sat it on the top of the fridge. What's the worst that can happen? If I tell my mother I had my eyes on my brother and let him get away, she'll probably beat my ass. If there's one person you don't try to get over on, and that's Della Baker, it is. Fur laughed and said, wait, your mother still whooping your ass? She focused back on the brewing coffee. All that man over there on that bed, I'll pay a ticket to see that shit. He grinned. He granny. I'm being straight up. My mother not going to understand how I let him go. And truly, I don't understand shit either. Fur pulled a cup of coffee, walked back to the bed, and clammed under the sheets without spilling anything. I'm sure he's going to get back in contact with you. She took a few sips, and the bitter taste caused her to squint. He got your number right. Yeah, but I don't have access to that number when I'm out. If I'm not at Marcus, one of my brothers got to be there so we can catch his call. He grabbed the bottle and sipped some more before setting it back down. He got a cell phone, but he can't use it for a lot of reasons. So he mostly used payphones and shit like that. That's why I wanted to talk to him, to at least give him my new cell number. I think I fucked up. She set her coffee down on the table and rubbed his shoulders. Things gonna work out, she smiled, hoping he'd believe her. Even though she didn't know his situation, she didn't want his attention anywhere else but on her. The thing with his brother was pushing them apart, and she needed that to stop. But when you with me, we have to enjoy our time together. I'm sure your brother will want you to be happy. I mean, that's how I feel about my sisters and brothers anyway. Slade felt her comment was a tad bit on the selfish side, but he understood her point of view. Why were you with that nigga? It's obvious you're scared of him. She shrugged and picked her cup up from the table. Slade could smell the scent of her morning breath mixed with the sweet odor of black coffee, but he was feeling her, so he didn't care. Randy is different. I was never really feeling him. But when I was a kid, he always took care of me. She laughed to herself when she recollect a thought. I remember when these girls were about to jump me. I hated his car to get away from them. He took me to his house, fed me, and his mother told me I was going to be his wife. I was a kid back then, Slade frowned, but I kind of believed her. She put the cup down, slid off the bed, got on her knees, and pulled out a brown box. Then she rustled through an old and new journal before pulling out a black leather book. She sat on the edge of the bed, dust off the cover, and looked at him. This is what I wrote when I was a kid. She turned to the appropriate page. Fur was on the roof baking in the sun. She was so excited when she saw her skin turning the color of her mother's. When it got late, she went home, and all her family could talk about was how beautiful her chocolate skin was. Later, she went outside to play with the prettiest girl in her school, who was also her best friend, Coconut Elway. Coconut talked about her boyfriend, and Fur talked about hers. She said his name was Sam, and his skin was dark as her mother's, and that he was and that he was as handsome as her father. The coolest thing about Sam was that he was as strong as Superman. Slade's jaws dropped. He couldn't believe she wanted to look different because she was stunning. And then there was the Superman thing, which really tripped him out. He didn't know anything stronger than him, and definitely not Randy Buttersoft ass. And that made him smile. For so long, he hated his condition, and now he's in a company of women who appreciate the things he knows most about himself. It was almost too weird to be true. You don't have that shit in there for real, do you? She slowly handed him the book and said, look. Slade sat up in the bed and leaned against the headboard. Then he examined the words she just read and looked over at her. That's some crazy shit. You think I'm weird? Fuck no. You will this shit into existence. My question is, who the fuck is Sam? She punched him on the arm. Shut up, boy. Slade looked at her again and said, I never saw nothing like this in my life. It's kind of fucking up my head a little. When he glanced at the page again, he saw another entry. And then somebody killed and raped her, and everybody in the family felt good because they didn't come to see her. What's this about? He pointed. Why you write this? She looked at the passage and was embarrassed at what he saw. First snatched the book and took it back under the bed. Please don't read my shit without asking. I don't like that, she said as a little bit of crazy ease out. He raised his hand and said, oh, I'm sorry, baby. It wasn't like that. He sipped his water again to allow the awkward moment to pass and to quench his thirst. So did you think Sam was Randy at first? I wanted him to be. I thought he was, but he isn't. He rubbed her legs and goosebumps flowed on her skin. He's obsessed with you. How come? Because I'm light-skinned. She smiled. He's into Redbones and I fit the bill. She kissed him. I had this conversation with my friend Rhonda and my sister the other day. They don't believe that most niggas prefer lighter females. Slaves shrug. Wait a minute. Because it didn't make him a difference either way, which way. Yeah, some dudes be on that shit. Tell the truth. You like me because I'm red too, right? Mom, you red and looks good on you, but I love you. I love you if you were as white as Demi Moore or as black as my penis. Fur didn't like his response. All her life she was made to feel unworthy because she wasn't like the rest of her family. It took a long time to embrace the trait that made her different, but she took it to an unhealthy level. She constantly searched the media for reaffirmations that she was better than the darker girls of her race. Violence and feeling superior was how she survived. What Farrell really needed was psychological help, but didn't know it. You said love. Is that how you feel about me? I meant like he swallowed. Anyway, I don't believe in that light skin versus dark skin shit. It's all a part of the Willie Lunch syndrome. What's the Willie Lunch? The Willie Lynch syndrome. What's the Willie Lynch syndrome? He pulled her towards him and she placed her head on his chest. Back in the day down south, Willie Lynch, a British slave owner in the West Indies, delivered a message to other slave owners in Virginia. He coined the term lynching after his last name. What was the message about? Basically, he said his method, which included pitting black people against each other, would last for at least 300 years, and he was right. He took difference in the slaves and made them bigger than they were. He said at the top of his list was age, but that was only because age started with the letter A. He said the second difference he blew up was color. I don't understand. He suggested they pit the odds against the young, the dark-skinned slave versus the light-skinned slave, female against male and male against female. It was done with the intention of making the slaves depend solely on their master and his work. Years later, we free, and people still buy into that shit to this day. It's dumb. You gotta see some other shit too. You got to read it to understand it. That was the first time for her heard of Willie Lynch, and it resonated with her. So she knew it was true. She stopped rubbing his chest and looked at her light hand on his dark skin. The combination was beautiful, but it didn't make her feel better. Fur was confused because her mother made her feel like shit for most of her life. Didn't she know about this syndrome too? And what about her grandmother who acted older than Harriet Tubman? Decided to skip the subject, she said, so when you find your brother, then what happens? She sat up in the bed, leaned against the headboard and grabbed a coffee. Are you going to stay with Marky? Because I don't think he has enough room over there. She took a few sips, trying to gain the courage to ask him to live with her. When I find him, I gotta go back home. She looked up at him. Go back home? Why? You know we don't live here. He rubbed her legs, but you moved it. But she moved away. She moved it away. But I thought, what you thought? I mean, you've been here so long that I thought you would stand. Nah, slave laughed. I can't stand these DC niggas out here. Plus, I'm not getting paper. I gotta be where I know how to survive. If I want to take you out, I couldn't even do that shit right now. How you think that makes a nigga feel? I know somebody you can get money from. What if we rob my boyfriend Ryan? Although he appreciated her go hardness, it also showed another characteristic he wasn't sure he liked. I wouldn't get you involved in no shit like that. Trust me, I'm involved more shit than you know. Not sure what that meant, but I do know this. If I step to him the way I want, he'll be dead. He looked into her eyes. I gotta go home and work on getting shit in order. A lot of people are depending on me. Ferd was so angry that he was leaving that she bypassed everything he said of importance and picked up on the shit she wanted to fight about. Oh, so you don't like DC niggas, but you want to fuck his bitches. He frowned. First off, I didn't fuck you. Second of all, what the fuck are you talking about? I mean, it's all good to fuck me, but I'm not good enough to stay with. She was growing angrier, and the blood rushed to her skin, caused her to look flushed. Is that how you move? What you want me to do? Abandon my family in Mississippi? It was the first time she heard where he came from. Well, what about me? She touched his arm. I need you, too. This shit was blowing slave. Let's take it one step at a time. We may find out we don't even like each other like that. She sat on the edge of the bed and placed her flat feet on the floor. You played me. She stood up, grabbed her baby blue robe off the chair, and put it on, pulling the belt tightly around her waist. I should have known something was up with you. He laughed. What you mean? Something is up with me. You probably gay like my sister Mia said. She giggled. I'm glad I'm finding out now. Rejection was eating her ass up and reminding her of when she was a sickly girl, confined to the bed with no friends. She walked over to the dresser, grabbed her brush, and tamed her wild hair. Slade eased out the bed and came towards in her direction. She looked at the reflection of his masculine body in the mirror, and she caught a glimpse of his adoration on his face. If this man walked out on her, she would be fucked up in the head, and she knew it. I'm going to ask you to take that back, but if you don't, I'm not fucking with you no more. He rubbed her shoulders unknowingly a little too hard, and she was in pain. She was too afraid to tell him to ease up, fearing he might not care. Now, and I know you, man, and that's why you just said some of that shit you didn't mean. I get it. From reading your journal, I could tell you never had a man like me in your life who really cares about you. You're scared, but you don't have to be. But I'm a man for straight up with no chaser, and you're not going to talk to me like that. He paused. So what you going to do? She knew she had to apologize. Not only was she dead wrong, but everything he just said was right. She had taken the things to another level by disrespecting his manhood, and she was out of order. But the other part of her, the side that was too afraid to show emotions, didn't like having her paws pulled by a man who invaded her thoughts. Who was he to bring up her journal and use it against her to display her innermost fears? Are you going to take it back? Are you going to take back what you said to me, Fur, or do you want me to walk out your life forever? Fur looked in the mirror at him and said, maybe you should go find your little boyfriend in Mississippi, since obviously you like dudes anyway. Slade removed his hands, threw on his clothes, and walked towards her again. And she looked into the mirror, and he crashed his fist into their reflection, shattering it into a million pieces before leaving the room. The moment she heard the apartment door slam, she flopped on the bed, looked at the mirror, and sobbed uncontrollably. When she heard someone moving around in the living room, she wiped the tears off her face, pulled her robe tighter, and walked towards the silence. Vivian James was standing in her apartment with a distraught look over her face. Fur rolled her eyes and walked up to her. She wiped her face and said, "What are you doing in my house? I paid you the rent for this month already." "Yes, you did, but I'm here to discuss another clause of the lease." "You better stop harassing me," she said, "because I don't like being threatened nor am I in the mood." I heard Fur Farm, but trust me, I'm a long way from threatening you. She threw her a serious stare. The lease says that a tenant is not to the lease says that a tenant is not to permit or suffer any act or omission constituting a nuisance to other residents. She recited the lease as if it was United States Constitution, including without limitations. 2. Excessive noise, excessive traffic into and out of the premises. Like the man who just stormed out of here and broke the door. In the process, she pointed at the knob which she was hanging on loosely. It also states that violence or threats of violence are not permitted. She stepped closer. Fur rolled her neck and said, "What does that have to do with me?" "Oh, I think you know, Fur Cotton. This letter was slid under my door last night." She raised a folded pink piece of stationery with green flowers, which Fur knew belonged to Lisa. And although it was anonymous, I believe everything it says. Fur walked away, took a seat on the recliner, and Vivian's father. Vivian, I don't know what you think I'm involved in, but you had the wrong person. I think otherwise, she signed the letter. This letter says that the 16 people who died in the building over the course of a month may all be attributed to you. Tears streamed down her face. That includes my son. She wiped her face with the palm of her hand. Fur rose and said, I didn't kill that man in the hallway. Chloe told her the whole story about how Slade punished him and was his bare hands resulting in his death. So what about the other 15? You had a hand in that. She was caught. Look, Vivi, you can't believe what you want. You can believe what you want. If you think I had anything to do with that shit, call the police. Otherwise, you can get the fuck out of here and leave me alone. So that's the end of chapter 57. And I'll be back with 58. Do what you gotta do, Slade. Bye, my reality.